All right, so I showed up at D6 to hang out and to take some of all of this good stuff in, and I ran into these two guys. So I begged them, and they agreed to sit down and have a quick conversation because you guys know we've been talking about apologetics like crazy. I mean, it's literally all we've been talking about. It's all you guys are hearing about. And in the midst of all the stuff that we've been doing with Sean, the great one, Josh, has come back out with a fantastic book. Now, you wrote Evidence, the original.
Sounds like I came back out of retirement or something.
Maybe.
Besides, folks, he didn't run into us. He literally knocked me over in the hallway.
I had to get you somehow. So, 1972, the original came out. So, older than me. And I'm okay with saying that. So,
And you're old.
and I'm old. I've got gray right here. It's coming in. So, apologetics, has it changed a lot? Has it changed a little? Where has it come from then to where it is now, do you think?
Apologetics has not changed. Apologetics still positive, setting forth positive reasons for belief. But here's the thing, truth does not change, but the critics do. Both good and bad critics change. The questions that I was trying to answer 35 years ago with the first volume of Evidence, has a lot of them have either changed or new questions have come along. And so I felt, and Sean felt, that if it wasn't a total, not a rewrite, a total complete revision, 67% all new, that it would be obsolete. And so that's why we rewrote it. But this is what is interesting. Back then, the questions were, the accusations were, well, how do you know it's true? Today, when you speak in truth, they'll say, what right do you have to say that? Yeah, it's gone from substance to form.
Now, I was just talking to a coworker of mine who said that back when she was in high school, she had to write a research paper, and she used evidence to write a paper on the evidence for the Christian faith. Teacher gave her a great grade. She did really well in paper. She got an A. But the teacher made all kinds of notes and markings on how, you really can't prove this isn't believable, all these kind of things. A few years later, the teacher was saved. And she said it was in large part to what the book actually, I don't know if she actually bought the book or if it was just for the paper or whatever. But so clearly there has been just tremendous amounts of people impacted. When you were putting this together, I know as an author you probably always have aspirations of and thinking through, I want this to impact people. But clearly this project has impacted probably way more than you'd ever imagine. I mean, when you were doing this, could you have ever imagined not only the amount of people that you would have reached, but that now your son is helping you craft it to take it into a whole new generation?
I knew it was going to have an impact, just from years of speaking on the subjects. Second, I had so many people say, Josh, how can I get some of your documentation, your evidence, your research? So I took and printed off half of 8.5 by 11 sheets of paper, about, I'm thinking 28, 30 maybe, and documented evidence for the New Testament and sold them at all the meetings. Oh my gosh, they go just like that.
Wow.
People buy 6, 7, 8, 10 of them and all. And I made more money on that than any project I've ever done. But with that, I knew it was going to be a runaway bestseller. Yeah. But I couldn't dream that it would have such a global impact. It's kind of thrilling for me, but you can hardly find any Christian leader in the world in every culture that hasn't been either impacted by Evidence Manza Veritum or Carpenter. And I never could imagine that. And I never imagined that I would ever go through a revision with my son. Now that's like dying to heaven and coming back.
So what's new? What's new inside? This is clearly heavier than the last one I held. So what's different?
One is a whole chapter on truth. Is there such a thing as truth? If there is, can you even know it? You see, 35 years ago, that wasn't even a question. It wasn't an issue. Today it is. There's a chapter on intellectual skepticism. And that's because of what has happened, because of the internet. Well, how do you know that's true? There's so much out there. It could change tomorrow. But probably one of the most significant chapters that's going to help so many people is one called, Is Christianity a Copycat Religion? Sean wrote that one, and it is, I think, it's equal to anything that's ever been written on it. I really do. And then I think the chapter on the New Testament, which is the manuscript evidence just gone off the charts. Like it went from 24,603 manuscript scrolls of the Bible to now I document in there 66,426. It's gone off the charts. So what is new is a tsunami of new evidence and new questions.
That's awesome. So you've spoken a lot, especially lately. I've heard you speak a lot and writing more on the upcoming Generation Z and how things are starting to change. Mm-hmm. So where are we going? How is apologetics need to now be done to impact the generations coming up?
Well, I think a few things. Number one, we have to make sure we're answering the questions that this generation is really asking. So I saw a study came out by Barna on millennials, and it increased almost like a precipitous jump from previous generations about the amount of doubt that this generation has. And it seems that that's getting even higher with Generation Z. But what was also interesting with Generation Z is almost half of them said they were looking for evidence for their beliefs, which surprised me because one of the big pushes in culture has been it's just a matter of faith, you can't know, and yet at least half in one study with Barna were open to evidence. So it tells me there's doubt, people are open to evidence, this is a ripe time to present truth to this generation. So I think we just need to be willing to do it. And it's not so much with this generation that they've heard the evidence for Christianity and rejected it or found it wanting. Many of them simply haven't heard it. But the other thing, even before we get to the evidence, is, as my dad said, the big question when you were speaking on college campuses was, is this true? Give me proof, show me evidence. Now I think a question that comes before, is it true? Is Christianity good? And I think this is because of some of the big questions this generation, they've heard about all the atrocities and bad things Christianity's done. And some because of the LGBT narrative that Christianity is harmful. There's a first prior question, is this even good? Before they'll even entertain or care about whether or not it's true.
Or it's like saying, they don't care about it's true if it's not good. It's that simple.
That's a good way to put it. So the introductory chapter, that's one thing we expanded is we've got the top 10 objections that statistically this generation is asking, personally been asked, and we call it clearing the fog of how we answer some of those so somebody will even consider the evidence. So are Christians all hypocrites? Is science against religion? Why does God allow evil? We've got to address those in a fair, judicious manner, and then oftentimes they'll be open to the evidence.
Now we've talked, you and I, a lot about the importance of apologetics in the classroom and youth groups for students specifically. And maybe not even using that word apologetics, but just the idea of giving reasons, giving evidence, defending your faith, that sort of thing. How can pastors, teachers, and even parents at home get their students into that mode to be able to have those conversations and get their students trained properly so that they can leave their youth groups and their homes and go off to college and not just survive, but actually make an impact?
Well, the first thing is leaders, whether it's parents or pastors or teachers, need to train themselves. So we can only give to kids in the next generation what we have first inculcated into our own life. So that's one reason we wrote the book. There's a ton of good apologetics resources out there. So if somebody's saying, I want to help train the next generation, first thing they got to ask is, what do I know? Am I training my worldview? Am I learning this stuff? Second thing is just to build relationships with kids. If you're a pastor and it matters to your church, essentially I've come to believe that what the pastor says from the top down sets the trend for the church. So if pastors talk about it being important, if pastors incorporate it into their messages, if pastors have a library at the beginning of the church that has apologetics books and start saying this is one important thing, then the church will begin to pick it up. So pastors have to really set the pace, but even relationally, building relationships with people in the church, parents building relationships with the kids is the best way to have just the capital, so to speak, to be able even to speak that truth. And then the third thing would be just to take intentional advantage of good resources that are out there. The right conferences to send your kids to, the right curriculum, the right books, and intentionally look for those opportunities to have those conversations and actually train your kids in apologetics.
It was awesome. Now, I literally had somebody say to me the other day, you were able to get Sean to do what? And I said, to work with us and create this curriculum. And they said, okay, that's great. And they were like all excited about it. I said, but Sean could, one, do it himself, that he could partner with anybody. Why Awana? Why this curriculum? And what impact do you hope it will make? So it's almost like that's a question from the audience of literally somebody like just inquiring on that.
Well, a few things. I've been a fan of Awana for a long time. But when I learned about some of just the vision and the transformation in the youth ministry that included apologetics, and that Awana was saying, we're going to put the top resources we have, whether it's writers, whether it's artists, curriculum creators, filmers, and we're going to come with the resources, let you bring your passion for this, but we'll add some creativity and partner together, I was sold. So there has been a need for a systematic, careful, top quality apologetics curriculum in the church. There's not one. There's a lot of good books, there's good conferences, there's good small group series and individual pieces, but there's not a year-long, step-by-step, careful curriculum. And when Jeremy and some of the other leaders at Awana said, we want to do this, we want to partner with you, we'll bring the resources, honestly, I was sold. I told my wife, I'm like, if this happens, this could be one of the most significant things. And already, I mean, it's only been out, I don't know, 6-8 weeks. Yeah. I'm running into people everywhere, parents, youth pastors, getting emails of people that are using it. And the common response is like, thank you, this is what we've been looking for. So I'm really excited about and honored to partner with Awana.
That's great. I can't think of a better combination than if you get the curriculum, you go through the curriculum, and to even go deeper and to supplement it would be this big honker of a book. This thing is awesome. I taught through this one time, not this one, but I taught through this once, and I was blown away. And my students were blown away. And I actually had a student come up to me, a former student from Detroit Bible Institute, at the event from Impact 360, and thanked me for that class, and it was this book that
See, part of the reason we did it this way is that you need to buy two and then you use them in your exercise.
Right. I just
Carry them with you when you jog. No, it's amazing. You build your muscles.
Right, yeah, isn't that what school does for you? It actually
That's
builds
what
your
truth
muscles,
would do
right?
for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate the time, guys. I know you guys got to speak in a few minutes, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I appreciate it. Thank you for what you guys do. Thank you for partnering with us, and thank you. Keep doing it. I have one last question for you guys. I think this is maybe one of the most important things.
Here it
Wealth
comes.
of experience versus PhD. Who wins?
Ooh.
My wife. She gets to be my wife and his mother. I mean, she's the shining star.
Good answer.
Yeah.